A very good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon. You have started this.
Yes, ma'am, I'm going to introduce with you with all the audience.
Okay.
So I think 17 or 18 participants have joined. All are joining, so it starts.
Okay, fine. Um,
Okay.
so Deepti, just a
Very good
second,
morning.
because
Yeah, yeah.
sorry for the disturbance. Because most of the people have not come, so the practice of asanas will come right in the beginning. So if the
Okay.
participants are not there, then they will not be able to do the classes. Is that okay?
So, dear participants, are you ready to do the asanas in the beginning of the session? Most of
Just a
them
few.
have switch off their
Just
cameras, so I'm not able
that's
to
what.
find out whether they are in the position to do asanas or not.
Otherwise, what I will do is
Okay.
we will have the practice session at the last, if time permits.
Okay, okay,
Because
okay,
my
okay, that's
my
fine.
plan is to start with the in the beginning itself,
Okay,
because most of them are having their camera off. So I don't
okay,
think that making them do the asanas is not possible.
okay, ma'am. Okay,
So I
okay,
will
okay.
stick on to the usual thing. Hopefully, will you please let them make the switch on the camera, so that for the first 5 minutes I want
Participants,
to make them.
okay.
Yeah.
Kindly switch on your cameras, participants, so that we are able to know that whether you are in a position to do some asanas or not. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for us to. At least you can switch on your camera so that you can find out whether you are in your offices or workplaces or at home. So they don't want to switch on their cameras. Okay, it's okay. Then we'll start the session.
Yes, yes. Please start.
Okay, I welcome you. Okay, kindly mute everyone. So I welcome Miss Pavitra Harith. Miss Pavitra is the daughter-in-law of late Padma Vibhushan Yoga Acharya Shri BKS Iyengar. She completed her graduation in microbiology and masters in biotechnology from University of Madras as a rank holder. When she started the subject of yoga in the year 2010, she has studied under Guruji, Geetaji and Prashantji. She currently teaches beginners in the Ramamani Iyengar Memorial Yoga Institute, Pune, and also conducts online classes for Iyengar Yoga Shala. The institute in Pradikaran set up by Guruji's daughter Sunita Parthasarthi. So I welcome you, ma'am, in this session of mindfulness meditation. I hope all the participants who are present in this session, they will get the most of the benefit out of this session. So it's again request to all the participants, if you can switch on your cameras, kindly switch on your cameras so that you can enjoy the session fully. It's a request to all of you, not an order, it's a request. So ma'am, kindly start the session.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Deepti. Thank you, everyone, for. I'm so grateful that I'm here. Um, so, mindful meditation is the session's name topic. So let us start. Meditate. Come on, everybody, sit straight. I'm most of the cameras are off, so I believe I take the liberty saying that everybody is sitting straight, and you're all set. Okay, sit straight, everyone. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Roll your shoulders back. Spine erect. It is not difficult. Just follow my instructions. Nothing difficult at all. So let go of your anxiety, stress. Have a deep breath and relax. Spine held straight, erect, and firm. Slouching of the back is not allowed. So you have to become really straight, as if somebody is going to hold your back and roll your shoulders back. Let your facial skin relax and allow it to descend. The eyes, the ears, and the root of the tongue are pacified and quiet, so that the brain releases from their contact. Draw your mind within and surrender to the Supreme Lord. Let your senses go with it. Let the energy of the spine ascend and the intelligence of the brain descend. And let them dissolve in the seat of conscience where the true self reveals itself. Let this position be the kind that helps you overcome your distracting thoughts and thus create a spiritual intensity of concentration. Take a deep breath and relax. Eyes quiet. Now slowly open your eyes. I want you to open your eyes. So let me go with the presentation. Let me share a screen. You're able to see? Yes, Deepti?
It's very much visible. We'll start.
Yes. So, whatever you did is the classical modern day meditation that the world advertises nowadays. Fancy words, all highly intellectual words coming out of the system. Now, I want you to be honest to yourself. You need not unmute and tell me. I do not know. I have no idea how many of you have done. I take the liberty that most of you had followed my instructions and just be there. But I want you to answer these questions to yourself. How many of you were aware of your own body? Like the positioning of your body. I said slouching of the back is not allowed. So how many of you were really able to keep your body back erect at that point of time? It was not much of your time, maybe 2 minutes at the maximum. But how many of you were able to hold that erect spine throughout? And how many of you were able to control your thoughts? For example, what? What is she talking about? Right in the beginning? Meditation? It's lunchtime already. I'm already hungry. The session is 1.5 hours. It is too long. I cannot hold. The subject is too theoretical. It will be boring. My project is not doing well. I wish my project guide would see me for the hard work that I'm doing. How many of you were able to control your thoughts like this? Were you aware of your own breath? I said, have a deep breath and relax. How many of you were able to inhale deeply and exhale deeply? What does that mean? How many of you were aware of your own senses? The eyes were not able to close. The ears were all open. You were fully active. Your sense organs were fully active throughout. Who is cooking what? Most of you are at home. A good smell is coming from the kitchen. So your tongue starts salivating. So somewhere the sense organs are not in your control at all. How many of you were aware of your own actions? And so let me not degrade the attempt that you were doing. Many of you, there might be a small group where you were really sincere, closing your eyes and following my instructions. You were able to hold, yes. But do you think that if
Yeah,
I had extended,
sorry, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt you. I think somebody has raised hand, Dr. K. Venkata. He wants to say something. Dr. K. Venkata, you wants to say something? You raise your hand. Then why you raise your hand? Okay, sorry, ma'am. Please.
because I think it will be better, it will be better if I have the questions to the end. Is that okay?
Okay, okay.
Uh, then I will have to, escape the screen and then come back again. So
Okay, okay, fine,
I'm
ma'am.
not
Okay.
running away anywhere. Right? Is that
Okay.
okay?
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. As I said, let me not degrade your attempts. Let me not demean your attempts. How many of you, if I had, suppose if I had extended my instructions to say 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes, like the classical meditation classes that you have outside, do you think that you will be hold on to the same concentration, to the same awareness throughout the 20 minutes or 15 minutes? I don't know. So these are the questions that you have to answer to yourself. Be honest to yourself. Okay, fine. Stop, Pavitra. Get to the point. What does it mean? The point that I'm trying to make is our senses and sense organs are not in our control. We are not able to control our thoughts. And even if I'm going to hold my position, how long can I hold? So this thing, if meditation, the modern meditation says, the definition of meditation says that it is to sit erect, be calm, focus on your breath. Then what is pranayama? Okay, so I will just mindful meditation. I will break this phrase into two parts. Let me try to understand what it means. Mindful means being conscious or aware of something. Meditation is to contemplate a deep thought. Aim of meditation. So it can produce a relaxed and a tranquil mind. What is tranquility? Something, a state of mind where there is no disturbance, where there is no turmoil, a calm state. That state of mind is called as tranquility. So this may result in enhanced physical and emotional well-being. Now, what is the point of dhyana from yogic point of view? Yes, obviously, dhyana, meditation, cannot be half-minded. When the flow of concentration is uninterrupted, that state arises in dhyana. Now, B.K.S. Iyengar says, it's his words, yoga is an art, a science, and a philosophy. It touches the life of man at every level, physical, mental, and spiritual. It is a practical method for making one's life purposeful, useful, and noble. So I need not say more. This simple quote is more than enough for us to understand why we do yoga and what is yoga. Now, what kind of yoga that you follow, Iyengar yoga, Patanjali's Ashtanga yoga. Ashta means 8. Sorry? Ashta means 8. Anga means limbs. So 8 limbs. These are the 8 limbs, ladders of Ashtanga yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. As you can see from this ladder, I have highlighted dhyana at the, it's like the penultimate state. Patanjali says that dhyana comes in the penultimate state. So from this, you can understand that the kind of intensity, the kind of subtleness, the kind of difficulty, if you want to progress, or proficiency, if you want to have, that is the state. Now, Ashtanga yoga is like a chain. It's a single chain of 8 links. Now, when you're going to remove one chain, separate the 8 beads, there is no chain. Like that, if you remove one of these links, there will not be any Ashtanga yoga at all. Now, this Ashtanga yoga, these limbs they are meant to purify something in your body. They are not thoughtless links. Very sensible, very useful links. Shuddhi is nothing but purification. So what does it purify now? Yama, for example, they are nothing but, I'll just quickly go through it. So I will not, you can see from the screen. I don't want to waste too much of explanation in this because the table is self-explanatory. Yama is nothing but karmendra. It provides you karmendra shuddhi, which means it purifies your organs of action. Niyama, self-purification by discipline. Jnanendriya Shuddhi, which means that it deals with the purification of your sense organs of knowledge. Asanas are postures. Sharira Shuddhi. Pranayama, rhythmic control of your breath, and Prana Shuddhi. Sharira Shuddhi is nothing but purification of your body, all muscles, tendons, flesh, nerves, organs, ligaments, all those are included in Sharira. Pranayama is nothing but the vital energy, the vital force, life force. Pratyahara is where you control your senses, you take your senses within so that you free your mind from all these distractions. That is pratyahara. Antarendriya shuddhi. Dharana is concentration. It is meant to purify your buddhi, intelligence. Dhyana is meditation, is a state where nothing exists. Nothing, no identity exists. There is no manas, there is no mind, there is no ahamkar. Ahamkar is ego. Buddhi is intelligence, where none of these facets of consciousness exist. That kind of state is called as meditation, ideally. Samadhi is where you come face to your soul. Now, so from this, now we know that yes, meditation has got something to do with your mind. Everybody says, oh, you're stressed. There's so much of anxiety. There is performance issues. So you calm down, relax, focus, you meditate. That's what people say. That's what has been prescribed. So we all know that it has got something to do with mind. So what is this mind? We all say control your mind, calm your mind, do samadhi, do meditation. What is this mind? So mind includes everything: thought, perception, memory, emotion, will, imagination, anything that is cognitive, that is coming from your brain's conscious and unconscious actions. Now Patanjali says that mind plays so many roles. These are the very standing things. Some of the very few roles that mind plays: biological mind, physical mind, wavering mind, misperceiving mind, habitual mind, selfless mind, divine mind. But the kind of mind that you see at the last, tranquil mind is what Patanjali says is Shanta Manas. Manas means mind. Shanta is calm, where the state of the mind is free from agitation, free from any disturbance or turmoil, is tranquil mind. The aim of meditation is to achieve that state. Now, from the academics point of view,
Ma'am,
I
can you go
understand.
back to the previous slide once more?
Yes.
Ma'am, what is the difference between physical and biological mind? Because
Can
I
I answer these questions at the last? So
Okay.
because there is going to be a demonstration now, so I don't want to take too much of time in this. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So from the academics point of view, now I understand that yes, it's a educational setup. It's an academic setup. So we have something called as students, research fellows, and you have something called as teachers, professors, assistant professors, and all that. So from the students' point of view or from research fellows' point of view, they require a focused mind, something that is receptive. Students, they need not think more. You have to be receptive so that whatever the ideas are coming from your professors or from your teachers, you should be able to accept them. So that is why your kind of mind is called as receptors, importing the thoughts. Whereas your teachers or professors or assistant professors, they require a generative mind. Their mind is already profound. They already are having an intellectual depth and insight. So they have to be having this kind of mind facet whereby they should be able to generate thoughts, and they should be able to find out an effective way so that they will be able to communicate their thoughts, transfer their thoughts to you. So as Guruji used to say that, okay, I'll come back to that later. So that is why it's called as exporting the thoughts. They are exporting their thoughts. So here, like that, one should be aware of the function of the mind, the function of your intelligence, and you have to understand what the normal faculties of the brain and the higher faculties of the brain are. Now, what do I mean by normal faculties of the brain? It includes all the cognitive functions, something that is going to be required to lead a day-to-day life. For example, for instance, a child is crying. Why? For you to decide that, normal faculties of the brain is enough. But what is that higher faculties of the brain? It includes pensivity, reflectivity, and meditativity. What is the example? Okay. Now, that's a child is supposed to cry in this situation, but it is not crying. Why? So here in this situation, your brain has to be investigative mode. It should be in an investigative mode. So that is why where all these pensivity, reflectivity, and those actions, higher functions of the brain come into picture. So like this, you have to understand and compartmentalize and organize them properly. That Guruji Iyengar says is already meditation. What is this from a yoga point of view? Patanjali says Ekadanta Dhyanam. It means that an uninterrupted thought where the object of attention, for whomever you're going to focus, say Lord Krishna or a flower, whoever, Vishnu, Ganapati, for instance, and the power of the subject becomes one. The power of the subject is you, yourself, true self, something that is within inside. When these two identities become one, they lose their identities and they become one. So that state is called as dhyanam, meditation. Now recollect the 8 limbs that you had seen the previous slide, all the 8 limbs, yama, niyama. Then that time I had told you that dhyana, it comes at the penultimate state. So it obviously means that it must be the subtlest and the most difficult state to acquire proficiency. Dhyana begins with disciplining the body, because dullness of the mind leads to the dullness of the body, and it is also vice versa. Dullness of the body can lead to the dullness of the mind, both way relationship. Now the classical meditative poses that you see at the top, they are the one to the left is Padmasan, the one to your right is Siddhasana. This is the photo of Guruji Iyengar. Now he says that more than the body, it is the mind that requires a gentle and a careful approach. Asanas and pranayama, they are the vehicles of meditative action. Why are these asanas important? Because they strengthen your nerves, lungs, and other parts of the body. Now, the interaction between the body, mind, and breath is encouraged. Different aspects of the breathing. Breath is the other side of mind. Prashantji is Guruji Iyengar's son. He used to say this very often. Breath is the other side of your mind. So how to explore this mind and breath and body interaction and concept, that can be explored via asanas and pranayama. Dynamics, you have a wide range of asanas: standing poses, back bends, forward bends, twistings, jumpings, inversions. You have got a wide variety of asanas, dynamics of asanas. Thereby, what is the end product? You bring about the seasoning of the mind and breath. So I will come to this seasoning of the mind and breath when I'm going to show you the demonstration. What does this seasoning of the mind means? Changes in the breathing physiology and process occurs. So as I told you that there are a wide range of asanas. Some can be long duration poses, some can be short duration poses, some are easy, some are difficult, some are even, you cannot even imagining of attaining. All those poses are there. Now Guruji Iyengar, this is again his quote, he says that the correct positioning of the body with the awareness of wisdom sprouting in it from various asanas is itself meditation. Pranayama. Last slide, I was telling you about asana. Pranayama now, prana means breath, vitality, energy or wind. Ayama is the expansion, that is stretching. So pranayama thus means the extension of your breath and its control. Guruji says that mind is the king of senses. Breath is the king of mind, and the nerves are the king of breath. So basically, when you consider pranayama, it has got 3 things. One is inhalation, one is exhalation, and the other thing, the third one is retention. So through pranayama, or with all these rhythmic movements of these 3 factors, they are going to help you in moving towards your inner mind, towards yourself. So practically speaking, if you want to perform pranayama, what do you want? What do you require? You need strength in your muscles, nerves. You need concentration, persistence, determination, and endurance. Now, it's very easy for me to talk. Now, for example, I was telling you about, where the interaction between the body, mind, and breath. It is easy. It is very theoretical for me to say. You can say, what are you talking about? Give me some example. For example, when you consider tea, it's a very cherished, relished beverage, tea, coffee. When you consider these ingredients separately, tea leaves, water, sugar, milk, when you consider these ingredients separately, there is nothing special about it. But when you mix them together, when you create a concoction, the integrated form, that tea is, when you have a hot tea in a very rainy day, it's going to be, that is something that you can relish, right? So, like that, that interaction of the body, mind, and breath, when that happens, the outcome is something is going to be a marvelous. That I will tell you. Hopefully, you will be able to understand when you're going to see the asana demonstration. Now, again, control your mind, relax your mind. It's very easy for me to say, but to follow them practically, it is nearly impossible. It is nearly possible, right? So what do I do? There are so many things that are going to be disturbing me. These are some of the factors that are going to be the basic obstacles. Vyadi, disease, mental laziness, physical laziness. Even if you're going to attain something, you're not able to hold on to what has been achieved. An oscillating mind. All these things are going to be basic obstacles in your, not just in your yoga practice, it is also in your professional front and personal front. Now, Patanjali, he also lists out the obstacles that hinders the progress in yoga. What are those? Kleshas. They are nothing but afflictions. They are going to be the root cause of your sorrow. Lack of knowledge, ego, desires, hatred, jealousy. Abhinivesha is a very interesting facet that you see in asanas very frequently. Fear is abhinivesha. Clinging on to life. Fear of death is abhinivesha. Then you have something, I'm sure that so many of you would have heard about this, Shadripus, the 6 enemies of the mind that is going to cause you mental anguish. Lust, anger, delusion, greed, arrogance, jealousy, kama, krodha, moha, lobha, mada, matsarya. These are the 6 enemies of the mind. So all these emotions, they are going to continuously disturb you in some way or the other, whatever it might be. All those factors might be different for all of you people, but they are going to disturb us. Okay, so what can I do? What can I do to remove all these things? Patanjali also gives you a way. You're going to remove. The problem lies is that these emotions, I'll go back to the last slide. They go back to your organic, they get into your organic body, and they do not always stay there. They get converted into your memory. So how do I relate it? For example, somebody is so much stressed, your abdomen gets hard, you get diarrhea, you get dysentery, is it not? Or you get even constipated, you are always irritated in your mind, you shout at your husband, you shout at your children, all those things happen. So which means that it is not just in your organic body, it also occupies your memory. How does it occupy in your memory? Now, for example, suppose that you are angry with your boss. Even when you're going to go to some vacation or you're going to sit in a park, do you stop there? Your memory comes back. The anger comes back in your mind. But say, for example, you have a dog, you leave him and you go out somewhere. What happens? The dog becomes very sad. His heart really literally comes down to the ground. But when you come back to your home, what happens? He is overjoyed to see you. Is there any resentment? No, the dog doesn't carry any resentment at all. So Guruji now asks, who is more pure, the dog or you? Who is going to carry all those memory within themselves? You or the dog? So these are some of the practical questions that Guruji asked. Now in this slide, Patanjali says, as I told you, that in order to remove all those mental disturbances, these are some of the remedies. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha. You cultivate your mind with friendliness, compassion, joy towards others, and indifference, showing indifference. All these things, thoughts, positive thoughts are being cultivated instead of those negative emotions. Thereby, the sorrows of your mind are reduced. Okay, so meditate on what? You have to meditate, but there should be something for you to focus. Many say it is Om. You just have to close your eyes and say Om, Om, Om. Many close their eyes and they think of their favorite gods. My favorite god is Hanuman, Krishna, so I can meditate on them. So it's up to you. If you don't believe in God, you can even focus on your studies, even you can focus on your algorithm. It depends on your aspect of what it is to focus. Now, yoga stresses that internal objects of concentration are far more superior than the external concepts. Iyengar Guruji, again, he suggests us that concentrate on your breath, as nothing penetrates deeper than the breath or is more pervasive. For us, we can consider ourselves as average practitioners. So I can start my meditation with, with my physical body, skin, muscles, bones, nerves, my lungs, my heart, my liver, kidney, and all that. Gradually, I can progress on what it is to reach your intelligence, ego, chitta, and finally the Atman. Now, there are many facets of mind: subnormal, normal, and higher. When I say that subnormal, it means that when those people say, for example, depression sets in, you're sad, you're angry. So that state of mind is called a subnormal. So for you to come from a subnormal state to a normal state of mind is also dhyana. From normal state of mind, if you want to progress to higher state of mind, it is also dhyana. So there are different connotations. So to transform in between these three states is considered dhyana, which means that to escape from your mundane activities or aspects of life is also dhyana. Japam, you say Rama, 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 Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. That is also dhyana. So you don't want anything at all. You don't feel like doing japa or namasmaranam. So what I can do is I go to temple, I close my eyes, I want to sit quietly. I don't want any external interactions. I just want to be there, that enjoy the quietness and sitting quietly. That is also dhyana, is one of the connotations of the mind. Now to involve in a higher plane, spiritual plane, to involve the higher aspects of mind like pensivity, reflectivity, that is also dhyana. This will be the last slide. Geeta Iyengar. Geeta Iyengar is Guruji's daughter. She says that whenever we find stiffness in the body, our mind should be especially supple. It is never the stiffness of our mind that limits our practice. It is always the stiffness of our mind. Geeta Iyengar. So thank you so much. This will be the end of the presentation. Just a second. Stop sharing. Yes. Now we'll go on to this asanas. I will be showing you asana and a few demonstrations. Balachandra, he is there to demonstrate us and show us some asanas. Now, as I told you, in order to reach dhyana, asana, and pranayama, they obviously come into picture. So I hope this demonstration will be interesting to you as well. So you're able to see Deepti?
Exactly. Yes.
So I will be sitting in a corner, so I don't want to disturb you from seeing whatever asanas that he's doing. I'll be in the background telling you what he has to do and what is the importance of those asanas, right? Okay. Okay. Now asanas, what is the importance of those asanas? Is to allow, it allows your brain to be more receptive and your concentration becomes very natural. So as I told you, practically speaking, I told you, if I say meditate, so what are the concepts? What are the things that you require? Suppose, yes, I have to reach from a subnormal state of mind to a normal state of mind. What do I need? I need focus. I need attention. I need endurance. I need observation. I need some intelligence to understand whatever is happening in the body. So those basic requirements, these asanas or pranayama are going to provide you. Okay. So technically speaking, true meditation cannot be done when a person is going to be under stress or who has a very weak body, weak lungs, hard muscles, collapsed spine, fluctuating mind, mind agitated mind, or timidity. So it cannot be done at all. Those people, we don't qualify ourselves to do meditation. So meditation is possible only when one has already reached a certain stressless state. So let us understand this elements that are needed for meditation, dhyana, with some demonstration. So he is standing up straight. He is in Tadasana now. Tadasana is a very basic foundation pose that we usually do in our asana classes. We always begin our asana practice with Tadasana. Tada means mountain. Therefore, it implies a pose where he is going to stand as firm as a mountain, as tall as a mountain, and as erect as a mountain. So here he has to study the various parts of your body, how your legs are, how your legs are, how your knees are going to behave, are they bent, is his knees, all the toes together. So this kind of positioning of your body, how his chest is going to behave, how firm are his hands. These are the basic things that Tadasana provides you. And this is the same thing that has to be continued in all the asanas which are to be performed. Now, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Now, I don't know still how many of you are able to do these asanas. Whoever is able to do all these asanas, they are feel free to do. Try. It is up to them. Okay? Because I cannot see because all of your cameras are switched off. So again, I take the liberty in knowing that you're doing something. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Legs firm, hands firm, buttocks sharp. Push your dorsal spine into the body. Suck your quadriceps up. Open the back of the knees. Buttocks, sacrum, tailbone facing the ceiling. Uttanasana. Again, legs firm. Descend your trunk down. Head down, trunk down, head down, sides of the trunk down. Legs firm, head down, legs firm, buttocks sharp. Prasarita Padottanasana. So you can turn forward and then spread your legs apart. Prasarita means spread, well spread. Padasana, leg. So you have to spread your legs apart, minimum 3 feet of distance, and then you are going to do this. Head down. Descend your head down. Parshvattanasana. From there only you turn your right leg out, left leg in. Turn to the right side. Turn your trunk completely. Turn your hips also. Turn your hips. Both the legs firm. Stamp the outer edges of the feet. Lift your inner arches up. Head down. Don't try to make your back flat. Iron your back in this. Come back to the center. Now, all these 4 asanas that you saw now, Adho Mukha Svanasana, Uttanasana, Prasarita Padottanasana, Parshvattanasana, these asanas are going to train your body to do, body, brain and mind to do inversions. So, Balchandra, get ready to do inversions. Now, the first asana that he is going to show you is Shirshasana. Shirshasana, as you know, it is a very famous pose nowadays. You can see, you would have seen them in the posture, Yes, go on. Shirshasana. Shirshasana is the father of all asanas. Now keep on lifting your shoulders up. Legs firm. Legs firm. Now move your upper arm away from your lower arm. Move your upper arm away from your lower arm. Eyes looking straight ahead. Don't look down towards the floor. Don't look up towards the ceiling. Eyes in parallel vision. Now, Shirshasana. Get ready to do variations, Balchandra. Urdhva Dandasana. Bring your legs forward. Bring your legs forward. Yes, go like that. This position is called as Urdhva Dandasana. From here, you go to Ekapada Shirshasana. Right leg forward and left leg up. Ah, yes. It's okay. Be there. Be there. Good. 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 Now make your legs firm. Make your legs firm now. Back erect now. Take your dorsal spine into the body. Yes. Go up to Shirshasana. Do Virasana here. Virasana. Bend your legs. Bend your legs. Try to take your heels closer to your buttocks. Yes. Toes down, back leg long, and heels closer to your buttocks. Don't arch back. I don't want you to arch back. I want you to do, yes, Virasana. Yes, good. Now go back to Shirshasana. Is it possible if you can come down, showing the center view, Balchandra? Come down. Do Shirshasana from the center so that you can show them these variations also. A simple form of simple variations. So you have the chance to see Shirshasana from the center also, from the front view. Baddha Konasana legs. Okay. Upavishta Konasana. Legs apart. So this position is called as Upavishta Konasana in Shirshasana. Shirshasana. Parshva Ekapada Shirshasana. Right leg to the side. Inhale and come up. Shirshasana. Parshva Shirshasana. Turn to your right side. Twisting. So you can also twist in Shirshasana. So it doesn't mean that when you want to do twisting asanas, I have to sit and do. You can always stand on your head, and Guruji has shown this, that twisting is also possible when you're going to stand inverted like this. Come back to the center, Shirshasana. You can come down. Adho Mukha Virasana. Rest. And then get ready to do Sarvangasana. So set up for Sarvangasana. Now, as I told you, let him get ready to do Sarvangasana. Now, as you saw these Shirshasana variations, I told you the Shirshasana is called as the father of all asanas. It is 100%. It is going to work on your respiratory system, endocrine system, circulatory system. So you can see when he was doing so many variations, different parts of your muscles. There are about 600 to 700 muscles in your body, and there are so much of internal organs also. When you do all these variations, again the concept that I was telling you, when you want to bring down your one of the legs in Shirshasana, your breathing, your pattern changes. When you want to stay in Shirshasana, your breathing pattern changes. When you want to twist in Shirshasana, your breathing pattern again changes. Sometimes you hold, sometimes you inhale deeply, sometimes you exhale deeply. So these are some of the different facets, different processes of breathing physiology that you can explore just in Shirshasana alone. Imagine the kind of number of asanas that you have, different kind of asanas. How much of exploration, how much of permutation combinations that you have. Okay? Sarvanga. Sarvangasana. Come on. Sarvangasana is shoulder stand. Okay? Now he is resting the shoulders on the edge of the mat. His head is already down. I think Deepthi is already looking at this. Yes. Now go to Sarvangasana. Go to Halasana, go to Sarvangasana in whatever way that you can. Yes. This position is called as Sarvangasana. Now look at his back. Look at his back, how it is. Look at the sides of the trunk, how it is. How the buttocks is already in. The legs firm. This kind of height that you get in your spine, your spinal column, your vertebral column is very much essential. And he's also rolling the shoulders back. His head is already down. As you can see, the physiology of Sarvangasana, for example, it is supposed to be calming, very calming to your brain, very relaxing to your brain. So what does this happen? As you can see, that this is your back brain. This back brain is rested on the floor. This is where your respiratory center is, your medulla oblongata is, where your back brain is. That is going to be very calming because it is going to work on your respiratory center. That is why it is calming. Sarvangasana is calming, which is why Sarvangasana is called as the mother of all asanas. It is going to distribute again. Pituitary gland is here. It is going to calm your pituitary gland. Adrenal glands are here. It is going to work on your kidneys and adrenal glands because he's pushing it in with his hands. So overall, the endocrine system, the respiratory system, why? Because he's opening up his chest. The lungs are. He's pushing his back ribs into the body so that his chest opens, his lung opens, the lung volume increases. This is how the circulatory system, the respiratory system is being benefited by Sarvangasana. Now variations, Halasana. This position is called as Halasana. Ekapada Sarvangasana. Again, how you had different variations in Sheshasana, like that here also you have variations in Sarvangasana. Sarvangasana. Virasana in Sarvangasana. I hope that you are able to recollect what he did in Sheshasana. The same thing he is doing in Sarvangasana also. From there, drop back. Yes, he drops back, and this position is called a Setubandha Sarvangasana. Straighten your legs now. Try to straighten your legs now, Balachandra. Yes, move away. Back erect, open your chest, and then leg straight. Buttocks up, pubis up towards the ceiling, leg straight. Lengthen your spine, and then leg straight. Take your back ribs into the body, front ribs passive, and leg straight. So this asana is called a Setubandha Sarvangasana, bridge pose. Now you can come down. Come down. Yes. Now get ready to do the next group of asanas that he is going to show you quickly. Remove the blankets. Yes. If you want to open up your mat, you can do. Full arm balance, drop back. I hope that this group of asanas will be really fascinating to see. It is a very interesting group of asanas. Full arm balance, drop back. Go up now. Drop back. Good. Come back, come down. Can you show one more time? Is it possible, Balachandra? Yes, he's giving us thumbs up. Go up. Come down. Drop back. Good. Come down. Elbow balance. Pincha Mayurasana. Pincha Mayurasana, drop back. So he's resting on his elbows now. Before, his arms were straight. Now his arms are bent. His forearms are down on the floor. Drop back. Yes, one more time. Come down. One more time. Up you go. Exhale and go down. Yes, come down. Tadasana. Standing Tadasana. And he's going to drop back to one of the major famous back bending asanas, Urdhva Dhanurasana. Come on. Arch back. Start arching back. Yes, look at the ground and then come down. Look at the ground and palms down. Good. This asana is called as Urdhva Dhanurasana. Okay. Now lift your right leg up to go to Ekapada Urdhva Dhanurasana. Urdhva Dhanurasana. Viparita Dandasana. Now he is keeping the head down, crown of the head down. Interlock his fingers behind the head and he is going to be like this. This asana is called as Viparita Dandasana. Now raise your right leg up. Ekapada Viparita Dandasana. Legs firm. Become tall in this pose. How Guruji Iyengar used to say. Become tall internally and externally. Come down. Kapotasana. So kneel down. Make your shin heavy. Bang your head. Bang your legs now. Bang your legs. Extend your tarsal, metatarsal, toes, everything back. Make your shin bone heavy. Now start arching back. Middle buttocks into the body and arch back, arch back, arch back. Hands down. Now go down. Yes, go towards your head. Go towards your leg. Go towards your leg. Open up your chest. Yes. And then come down to Supta Virasana. Get ready to do Ekapada Raj Kapotasana. One leg is in Baddha Konasana like this. The other leg is going to be straightened. Now bend your leg, hold, hold, hold with both the hands. Yes, raise your chest up now. The full frontal body should ascend. Full frontal body. Anterior spine, lengthen. Let go. This asana is called as Ekapada Rajakapotasana. Rest. Be in Asupta Virasana, how much ever you want to rest. Be in Uttanasana, I leave it to you. Now, all this group of asanas that you saw now, they are called as back bending asanas. Because literally he was arching back, is it not? Now, all these asanas, what do they do? They make your spine healthy. They expand your chest fully. They have a collective soothing effect on your mind. Imagine if you have to drop back. He was dropping back from full arm balance and elbow balance, and he was standing and he was dropping back to Urdhva Dhanurasana. Imagine the kind of courage that you have to have in order to drop back. That kind of confronting your fears and beating your fears is what asanas are going to teach you. Because thereby they have a very helpful, healthy role in maintaining your, balancing your endocrine system, your respiratory system again, your circulatory system again. It is going to beat depression, overcome fear, develops willpower, strengthens your mind, helps developing endurance. Okay. This group of asanas that you saw is back bending asanas. Now, we'll come back to this. The next group of asanas, come on, get ready. Vrikshasana. Now, one of the things that I told you in the beginning, the requirements of dhyana is to have focus and concentration. These asanas are going to teach you, help you to learn focus and concentration. He's standing in one leg. Vrikshasana, again, 3 pose, a very famous pose that you would have seen in postures and roadsides. Vrikshasana. Virabhadrasana 3. Stand in one leg. Yes, go now. Go now, start bending your leg and then go. Shift your body weight to this leg, left leg. Shift your body weight. Shift your body weight. Come down. Ardha Chandrasana. Imagine that you have to stand and balance your full weight in one leg. How much of focus and how much of concentration should he have in order to have a balance? Ardha Chandrasana. Half moon pose. Now we'll come back. These 3 asanas, again, they are very basic asanas, standing group of asanas that are going to help you to prepare your mind. Yes, he has got to be super strong. His muscles have to be super healthy. Focus on your mind and your concentration should be there. These asanas are going to help you to do a group of asanas called as arm balancing asanas. Okay, come on, get ready. Bhuja Pidasana. Front view, Bhuja Pidasana. I will not talk much because it will disturb his focus and concentration in this. Bhuja Pidasana. Sthitibhasana. Come down. Vasishthasana. Yes, come down. Now go to open palm Shirshasana. If you want to take a blanket, you can take for your head. It's up to you. Or you can even fold your sticky mats so that you don't hurt your head. I can see that you haven't even shaved your head today. So I don't want your brain to get disturbed or the intracranial pressure to increase. So have two thick mats. Yes. Now go to open palm Shirshasana. Now start bending your legs and go to Bakasana from there. Parshva Bakasana. So you can show the side view. You can come down. You can show the front view. Sorry, front view. Is it possible for you to turn? Yes. Parshva Bakasana. Parshva is side because he is going to be on one side. Show the front view. So that come down. Yes, like that. So that they will be in a position to understand what is one side means. Come on. Parshva Bakasana. No. You were right in the beginning. Come down. Ashtavakrasana. Sorry, Urdhva Kukutasana. Urdhva Kukutasana. Go to open palm Shirshasana again. Any front view. Front view. Go now. He is putting Padmasana in Shirshasana here. And he's bending forward and resting his arms, legs on his upper arms. And he is going to lift his head away from the floor. Come down. This asana is called as Urdhva Kukutasana. Come down. From the ground, you can go to Ekapada Galavasana. Ekapada Galavasana. See how he is putting his foot and he is gripping it with his upper arms. He is fixing it. He is keeping it near his abdomen and leg up now. Come down. Ashtavakrasana. So Ashtavakrasana, you can show from the front. Yes. Balance. Yes. Good. Come down. Now you can rest. You can rest in Adho Mukha Virasana. You can lie down in Supta Virasana. Whatever. Now, as you saw, this group of asana that you saw, they are called as arm balancing asanas. Now, again, I want you to recollect the 8 limbs that you saw in one of the PPT slides, where dharana, after asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and dharana comes. Dharana is concentration. Now, all these arm balancing asanas that you saw before is going to help you to develop your concentration. Because imagine if his eyes are not steady, then nothing is, you're not going to have focus in your asanas at all. So that way, this awareness and concentration is going to improve your concentration and focus. Now we say that the eyes are the index of the mind. Imagine how much of central nervous system has got to be balanced in order to have a balance like this. How much of concentration, how much of communication your eyes and ears should have with the brain in order to strike a balance like this. So that way, it is going to teach you. Come on. The last group of asanas that we get ready to do some props. Now you can say, if I say relax your brain, you cannot do it. If I put you in some asana, say for example Halasana, you will be able to relax your mind. It is also quick, so you will be able to understand, yes, I have calmed down, my mind is relaxed, but although we will not be able to understand how it has occurred. So that is why Guruji, not all of us will be able to do this kind of asanas. So that is why Guruji Iyengar invented props. Props came into picture. Can you take that tall stool and can you show Mayurasana? Now he was showing us arm balancing asanas. Not all of us can do that kind of asanas. So he is going to, we can try to do arm balancing asanas with a prop like this stool, for example. Hold the leg and leg up. Now he can stay there for quite a few seconds more longer. At least we can attempt doing all these kind of asanas. Come down. Show Veerabhadrasana in that only. Now you saw Veerabhadrasana 3 where he lifted his one leg up and he was standing in one leg. Now as a beginner, we cannot even imagining doing all those kind of balancing asanas. So again, prop comes into picture, how it is going to help us in attaining that asana without any mental stress and physical stress. One leg up. One leg up. This is a supported version of Veerabhadrasana 3. It is when pregnant women can do it, women on periods can do this kind of asanas without any disturbance in your abdomen region. But at the same time, your chest is open, your spine is well elongated, your legs and hands are strengthened. All those things come into picture. Come down. Now, can you show Ardha Chandrasana in this horse also? So you can tilt. Yes, you can turn the horse. This prop that you see here, this is called a Stressler that we have on, in our Pune Institute. Ardha Chandrasana, hands down and Ardha Chandrasana. Lift your leg up now. So keep your your foot, top foot on that leg. Yes. Now this way you can do Ardha Chandrasana. You can work on your legs. You can work on rotating your abdomen. You can work on opening up your chest, shoulder muscles, neck muscles, pelvis opens. So that is why it is very good for even pregnant women and those who are menstruating also. So this way props helps us. Come down. Show us shoulders rested Uttanasana. So you can put that wrestler aside. He is having two stools like this. Can you please put it in the center? Put it here, bring it here. Here. Rest your shoulders here. Head down. Hands here. Now you can do Uttanasana in this kind of setup where your shoulders are rested. So thereby your cervical spine gets a length. Your brain, your head automatically cools down because there is no physical stress. I need not put a lot of stress in my body in order to attain this position. These props are going to help you in that. Create space in your upper back. Thereby, your shoulders are also widened. Okay? Come on, come up. The Tressler. Move the Tressler this side. No, this way, horizontally. Yes, you're going to show them Urdhva Dandasana. Now, in one of the variations that you saw in Shirshasana, Urdhva Dandasana, that again can be done here. So he is going to hang his head down. Yes, rest your foot. Your full trunk will be down. I hope that you are able to see. His trunk is fully hanging down and his legs are up. So this way, a variation of Shirshasana can also be done with the props. Come down. Viparita. So we also have ceiling ropes. We also have ceiling ropes in our institute that you can see here. Ceiling ropes that are hanging. Can you quickly show our rope Shirshasana from there? Balachandra is showing you. So we also have Shirshasana. So we cannot imagine being in Shirshasana for 10 minutes, 3 minutes at the max. So what to do? How to enjoy the benefits of Shirshasana? This can be done. So ceiling ropes are used where people stay in Shirshasana for even 10 minutes without any problem. They are comfortable in this pose. Come down. Come back to the platform. So now you can show them Viparita Dandasana on the bridge. This is the bridge. You saw in one of the backbending asanas where he was having his crown of the head down with the interlocked fingers behind his head. This bridge, lie down. This bridge is called as Viparita Dandasan bridge, where he is going to be lying down like this, legs are straight, and he is able to open his chest now. His head is hanging. He will be able to work on his shoulders. Again, all the back bending asanas, since your adrenal glands, kidneys are here, they are meant to activate your adrenal glands. So all these back bending asanas are good for your kidneys. Okay, adrenal glands. So it works on your like that. Again, pelvic opening is there. You can work on your legs, you can work on your feet so that your pelvic organs are flourished with blood. Okay, now you can come down. Tall stool, Urdhva Dhanurasana. So you can take the tall stool. Yes. Keep a bolster on top. Show the side view. Legs that side and hands this side. Urdhva Dhanurasana. Again, in one of the backbending asanas that you saw, your buttocks should be on the top. It should be always at the top. Now climb up, climb up, climb up. Sit on the bolster. Yes. Now come down. Arch back, arch back, arch back. Release your hands now. Release your hands. So this way, Urdhva Dhanurasana can be done. Again, with the help of the prop, where you can even imagining staying in this backbending asana for even 2 minutes, 10 minutes, how much ever people are comfortable with, and enjoy the benefits of Urdhva Dhanurasana. Come down. Janu Shirshasana. Now, yes, I told you that backbending asanas, they activate your adrenal glands. They are good for your kidneys. They activate your adrenal glands. Now, there are also a group of asanas called as forward bending asanas, where you sit down and you do forward. You bend forward and you can rest your forehead like this with a prop. This asana is called as Janu Shirshasana. This kind of forward extension of your spine is again good for your kidneys, but it has got a opposite effect. It calms down your adrenal glands. It pacifies your adrenal glands. One group of asanas are going to activate the adrenal glands. The other group of asanas are going to pacify your adrenal glands. Pituitary gland is already here, so it is resting. Your brain is resting. There is nothing to be stressed about. Elongation of the spine is achieved. Okay, it is also calming for your abdomen. Your pelvis opens. It is good for your knees. So it is also good for your hamstrings, legs, and everything. Okay, come down, come up. Paschimottanasana. Show Paschimottanasana also. So legs straight and then you can bend down. Just like how you have different variations of Shirshasana and Sarvangasana, you have different variations in sitting asanas also. Different, so one leg was bent before, now he is straightening both the legs and he is resting his forehead. Now show Baddha Konasana, forward bend, Adho Mukha Baddha Konasana legs, and then rest your forehead. Upavishta Konasana, spread your legs apart and then rest your forehead. Marichasan leg. One leg in Marichasan, bend your leg in, like that. The other leg is straight, forward bends. Yes. Now, all these asanas are even good, be there in forward bend. All these asanas are even good for your heart. It is not just for your kidney. I told you, even your respiratory system and your circulatory system are going to be impacted. How it is good for your heart? Because your heart is already facing the ground. It runs along with the gravity. It need not fight the gravity in order to pump more blood. So that is why it is also relaxing for your heart and strengthens, pacifies your cardiac muscles. Come up. Sarvangasana chair. Chair Sarvangasana. So how, imagine the kind of props we would have never imagined that these props can be used so that yoga can be done by anyone, everyone, and enjoy the benefits of whatever yoga has to provide. Rest your head down, shoulders down on the bolster, slide down. Now hold your chair from behind, from underneath. Yes. He did Sarvangasana before, right? Shoulder stand. Now for those who cannot do Sarvangasana independently, for whatever reasons it might be, age might be the factor, beginners can be the factor, maybe your back and your shoulder muscles are not strong enough. It can be due to various reasons. This prop, a simple chair, can be used to do Sarvangasana like this. Okay? Now from there, go to Viparita Karni. Straighten both the legs up, buttocks rested, Viparita Karni. This position, this variation of Sarvangasana is called as Viparita Karni. As you can see, yes, it is going to open up your chest muscles. His back ribs are going in. His front ribs are passive. His buttocks is rested. Now you can see that there is a curvature. Again, it is going to work on your adrenals and kidneys. It is going to strengthen your kidneys. Your throat. Again, thyroid gland is there. Parathyroid gland is there. Pituitary. Again, respiratory center. It is going to be calm for your. It is going to be calming for your brain and your. It opens you up your chest muscles and increases your lung volume. Likewise, Sarvangasana is going to be the provider of all the basic nutrients, basic necessities that one has to require in order to survive. That is why it is called as mother of all asanas. Bend down, go to Halasana from here only. Right. Let me give you Halasana. Now I told you, stay in Halasana. It will help you relax. Many people will not be able to do it. So again, here props come into picture. I will give you this support. He can rest his thighs now on the support. Lift your leg up. Lift your leg up. Yes, I'm giving his more support so that his back can be straight. Now this version, you can have even your hands over your head, Balchandra. You can release your grip and you can have your hands behind, over your head for a more relaxing effect. Now this kind of thighs rested Halasana, half Halasana, Ardha Halasana it is called. You can stay here for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, and some way all these props are going to help you stay there in the pose for an extended period of time. And again, as I told you, different aspects of breathing can be studied. Some asanas take deeper exhalation, some asanas they require deeper inhalation, and some asanas, some breath, maybe it touches your back part of your lungs. Some asanas, maybe it touches your front part. Twisting asanas, for example, it touches your side body. So all those things can, that is why a wide range of asanas are there, so that each and every part of your body can be nourished. Okay, you can come down, Balchandra. I understand. I'm sorry to disturb you from this very calming Halasana, but we have to end the session. People are waiting to eat. So let us not disappoint them. Yes. So that is why a wide dynamics of asanas are there. So the breathing physiology and the process changes. You get to access the mind through the breath. Now, this is where that will be the end of demonstration. Thank you, Balchandra. Now, this is where I hope that you are able to recollect where I told you about the seasoning of the mind. Seasoning of the mind is nothing but you would have heard about seasoned wood. No matter whatever the external conditions are, whatever the weather outside are, The seasoned wood, they don't expand, they don't contract, they just remain intact. Like that, seasoning of the mind is a state where whatever maybe the external changes are, whether it is hot, whether it is cold, whether it is raining, it doesn't matter. Whether there is stress or no stress, it doesn't matter. Whether it is morning, afternoon, evening, it doesn't matter. Your internal physiology of your organs, your molecular reactions, your breath, your mind is going to be the same. So no matter what the external life gives you, that your internal sustenance is going to be the same. The reaction towards is going to be the same. That's what is called seasoning of the mind means. A single gesture of the mind that can be put in a very simple way. So likewise, you have you saw the different dynamics of asanas now. Like that, there is no field activity. Say, for example, now it's going to be a pandemic. It's a pandemic session. Now I'm not able to see you in person at all. So in these kind of stressful situations also, our mind is trained. Our mind is prepared to face this hard external world like this. So I can strengthen my lungs. I can strengthen my immune system. I can strengthen my circulatory system. So whatever is possible from my end, I will be able to achieve that. And that asanas and pranayama are going to give you. Now mind is like ocean, they say. So every occupation has got a training program. Now this academic session has a training program. Even to we go into space nowadays, right? So astronauts, they require a training program. You want to become a good teacher, you need a training program. You want to become a better student, you want to train yourself, right? So if this is the case in every aspects of life, why not in meditation? Meditation also requires training. It is not something that you can just go and sit alone in one corner, close your eyes, focus yourself. It is not going to happen. Let us be practical in this approach. So like that, nowadays, now again, you see that the science and technology has improved. Your medical field has improved a lot. Now we are all, most of you, I hope that you are in artificial intelligence branch, right? So the IT, the computer field has actually improved a lot. We are all talking about behavior and mental length. What does all these signify? These signify, I see that it signifies human evolution. Our intelligence has increased. Our awareness has increased. That is why we are able to develop all these things. So imagine if I'm going to grow in only one direction, how thin I will be in this direction alone. If I'm going to grow in this direction alone, how fat I will become. It cannot happen. So a growth, expansion should occur in all dimensions as possible. Vertical, horizontal, circumferential, diagonal. That way, in all dimensions as possible, growth has to occur. Intelligence has got to grow. Only then we become, we have a form. We will have a form. We become presentable. Now you can see, as I have worn some dress, sari, which I don't usually, very common. I'm wearing all these dangles, gold. I'm dressed up. Why? I have not even met you. You have not met me. I have to look presentable to your eyes. So I have dressed up this way. So according to me, according to Guruji's teachings, yoga gives you that. Your intelligence, your mind grows up in all dimensions as possible, whether it is physical, mental, physiological, psychological, spiritual, if you want to say. Intelligence grows in all directions as possible. It makes us complete. It makes us presentable. Presentable to whose eyes? It is up to you to interpret. So with this, I will finish off my presentation and talk. I hope that I had finished in time.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, there are some questions and queries in the chat box. Miss Prerna is saying, which asana is used to avoid severe headache?
all forward bending asanas are good for avoiding, you cannot avoid anything, right? What can you, which things, that is the beauty of life, is it not? You do not know what things will occur at what time. So I don't think that you can avoid your headaches. It simply signifies that you can avoid getting stressed or anxiety so that you don't get headaches. So all these asanas, forward bending asanas, they calm your brain, they relaxes your brain, they relax your nerve endings. So thereby you don't get stressed. So thereby you don't invite headaches. Yes?
And one more question is, Miss Nitika is asking, what is the best time to practice yoga?
The best time to practice yoga will be, yes, Guruji Iyengar, we have in the mornings, early mornings. Pranayam is early mornings is the best time to practice pranayam. Asanas, it depends. Now I cannot demand too much from you people. Many people might be working. Home mothers, they are busy with their kids and family life. How can I expect you to do early in the morning? So whenever time is possible, you can perform all these asanas. You can do in the morning, you can do in the afternoons, and you can also do in the evenings. Okay. There is no, it depends on your time availability. In our institute, it runs the same. We have evening classes and morning classes as well.
Actually, she wants to know what is the ideal time between the meal and the yoga. What interval should be there?
Defense, when you have your time, when you eat, it should be at least before 3.5 hours, 4 hours before your practice. Your stomach, your bowel should be empty. There is nothing wrong that if you can have a cup of tea, a couple of biscuits will do. That is okay. That is allowed. A banana, some lemon, oranges, fruits, acceptable. But nothing heavy, nothing spicy, nothing that is very hard to digest. So that when you practice all these asanas, they tend to come up. So your bowel should be empty and your stomach should be ideally empty. But I understand that if people are hypertensive people, diabetic people are there, so it is not possible for you to have this much of big, long intervals between your lunch and your practice. So ideally 3.5 hours to 4 hours.
Ma'am, there's one more question from Miss Amruta. She wants to know, is there any asanas to cure PCOS?
PCOS, okay.
Yeah.
Now again, PCOS, it has got something to do with your endocrine system. Okay. So for normal hormonal imbalances, I told you all these inversions, Shirshasana, Sarvangasana are recommended. Baddha Konasana is recommended, where your pelvic organs are actually open, pelvic muscles are open, circulation, blood circulation improves for your uterus and ovaries. Your hormonal system should be good so that you are made to do Shirshasana and Sarvangasana in these circumstances. But I want you to understand that if you consider therapy, then it becomes it needs a special eye. We need to be there to have give personal attention to whatever complaints that you have. These cannot be done. Quality is better than quantity. Can I say that? Because the quality of the asanas are much more very important than just rather doing some asanas in a very wrong way.
Any more questions or queries? I think, ma'am, all done.
All done?
Any more questions from participants? Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for creating such a positive energy within us. I think the last 1.5 an hour is full of positive energy, full of positive attitude. Because nowadays we all know that the person who has a positive attitude always remain calm, cool, happy, and always sees best even in the difficult situations. So I want to tell even my audience that I'm also the student of Madam Pavitra Harith, and I'm also learning yoga from her. And I have learned very good thing from her, that yoga is not like you do yoga for 1 hour or 2 hour or three. It's even you can perform for 1 minute, but with the correct technique. That is more important. The technique is more important than the timing. So with this, I'm very much thankful to you, ma'am, for giving such a wonderful session to our participants. And I hope that this session will be very helpful to them, and they'll definitely follow the path of yoga in the future. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much,
you.
ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Deep. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks a lot.
Deepa.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for inviting. Thank you. I hope that you have a wonderful day.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I will end the meeting, Deepti. Yes. Thank you. Have a nice lunch, everyone.
Okay, thank you,
Good day.
ma'am.
Happy Ganesh Chaturthi.
Yeah, happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi
Yes.
to all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.